People like you don't belong here." Those were the last words hotel staff member Brad Williams dared to speak before his entire world came crashing down. Picture this: a successful African-American woman, dressed in simple jeans and a white t-shirt, standing in the marble lobby of a five-star resort, being told she doesn't belong because of the color of her skin. The silence that followed was deafening, the kind that makes your heart race and your palms sweat. But what happened next wasn't just revenge. It was a complete system overhaul that would ripple through an entire industry. You see, sometimes the person you choose to discriminate against turns out to be the one person who can change everything. What would you do if you were judged solely by your appearance? Tell me where you're watching from and whether you've ever experienced something similar. The California sun bathes the Ocean Pearl Resort in golden light, its marble lobby gleaming like a jewel against the pristine coastline. This isn't just any resort. This is where dreams meet reality, where the wealthy come to escape, where five-star service supposedly means five-star treatment for everyone. The sound of cascading water from the indoor waterfall mingles with the gentle hum of conversation as guests in designer clothing glide across the polished floors. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows, and the scent of fresh orchids fills the air. It's the kind of place that whispers luxury in every corner, where a single night costs more than most people's monthly rent. Maya Chen approaches the reception desk with quiet confidence, her black hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing clothes that wouldn't look out of place at a weekend farmer's market. Her sneakers squeak softly against the marble as she walks, a small backpack slung over her shoulder. To the casual observer, she's just another tourist trying to punch above her weight. But 20 years ago, 15-year-old Maya stood in this very lobby with her immigrant parents, watching in silence as a security guard asked them to leave the pool area because they didn't fit the resort's image. Her father's hand had trembled as he packed their modest beach bag, his voice barely a whisper. "Someday, my daughter, you'll prove them wrong. That someday is today." Maya isn't here for revenge, at least not initially. She's here as the new owner of Ocean Pearl Resort, though nobody knows it yet. 3 days ago, her company, Chin Hospitality Group, completed a quiet $2 billion zero-cents acquisition of the property. As CEO of the third-largest hotel chain in Asia, Maya has learned that the true measure of a service business isn't found in its marketing brochures or corporate policies. It's discovered in how staff treat customers when they think nobody important is watching. She chose to return incognito, using only her first name, paying cash for everything, dressing down deliberately. She wants to experience what ordinary guests experience, to feel the pulse of the place that once crushed her teenage spirit. The irony isn't lost on her. She's conducting a secret audit of her own property, searching for the soul of hospitality in a place that once had none for her family. The lobby bustles with activity as she observes the intricate dance of luxury service. Bellhops in pristine uniforms glide between designer luggage. Concierges offer recommendations with practiced smiles, and the reception staff maintains an air of professional warmth. But Maya's trained eye catches the subtle differences in treatment. The way staff members' postures change based on a guest's appearance. The speed of service that varies with the perceived importance of the customer, the micro-expressions that reveal genuine welcome versus polite tolerance. Maya remembers every detail of that humiliating day 2 decades ago. The way the security guard's eyes had swept dismissively over her family's second-hand clothes. The whispered conversation between staff members as they walked past. The feeling of being invisible and unwelcome in a place designed for relaxation and joy. She remembers her mother's attempts to translate the rejection into something less painful, her father's quiet dignity in the face of obvious discrimination, and her own silent vow to never let anyone make her feel small again. Now, as she approaches the gleaming reception desk, Maya carries with her not just the weight of that childhood memory, but the power to transform it. She doesn't seek to punish for punishment's sake. She seeks to understand, to heal, and, if necessary, to rebuild. The scared teenager who was once asked to leave has become a woman who can change the rules entirely. But first, she needs to know what those rules really are when nobody thinks the boss is watching. The marble beneath her feet feels familiar, like a bridge between past and present, between the girl who was rejected and the woman who now holds the keys to the kingdom. Maya takes a deep breath, straightens her shoulders, and prepares to discover whether the culture of exclusion that wounded her family still thrives in this temple of supposed hospitality. What she finds will determine not just the fate of individual employees, but the future of an entire resort that once forgot the most basic principle of human decency, that every person deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of how they look or where they come from. Maya approaches the reception desk with the same quiet confidence she brings to boardroom negotiations, but Brad Williams, the 25-year-old front desk supervisor, barely glances up from his computer screen. His eyes perform a quick scan: jeans, sneakers, backpack, Africa features, and his expression shifts almost imperceptibly. The warm smile he offered the previous guest, a middle-aged white man in a polo shirt, disappears behind a mask of professional indifference. The reporter enters the interior with her phone handed at her for a moment. "Can I help you?" he asks, his tone carrying the subtle weight of someone who's already decided the answer should be no. "I'd like to reserve a suite for 3 nights, Maya says, her voice pleasant and clear. She's requested rooms at hundreds of hotels around the world, but something about being back in this lobby makes her hyper-aware of every word, every gesture, every micro-expression crossing the staff member's face. Brad's fingers pause over his keyboard. His eyes travel once more over Maya's casual attire, lingering on details that seem to confirm whatever assumption he's already made. "Do you have a reservation?" he asks, though she's just requested to make one. "We don't typically accept walk-ins for suite accommodations." "I understand," Maya responds patiently. "That's why I'm here to make a reservation now. I can pay in advance if that helps." She reaches into her backpack and retrieves a wallet. Not designer leather, just simple black fabric, that served her well through countless business trips where she values function over fashion. Behind her, a couple in designer clothing approaches the desk. Without hesitation, Brad's assistant springs into action, greeting them with enthusiasm that contrasts sharply with the treatment Maya has received. "Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, how wonderful to see you again. Your usual suite is ready, and we've prepared champagne and strawberries as requested." Maya watches this interaction with the analytical mind that's built her business empire. She's not imagining the difference. She's witnessing it, measuring it, cataloging it for future reference. When Brad finally returns his attention to her, his expression has grown even more skeptical. "All our suites are currently occupied," he states flatly, though Maya can see the computer screen from her angle, and it clearly shows availability. "We might have a standard room available, but it would require our Diamond membership level." "What does Diamond membership entail?" Maya asks, though she already knows the answer. Her company owns hotels with similar programs, and she's helped design some of them. "It's for our most valued guests," Brad explains, his tone suggesting that she obviously doesn't qualify. "There's an annual fee and certain requirements." He pauses, studying her face as if trying to determine whether she'll simply give up and leave. "Are you sure you're at the right hotel? There are several budget options down the coast that might be more suitable." The word suitable hangs in the air like a challenge. Maya feels the familiar tightness in her chest, the same feeling she experienced at 15 when the security guard suggested her family might be more comfortable elsewhere. But she's not 15 anymore, and she's not powerless. Still, she maintains her composure, curious to see how far this will go. "I'm quite sure this is where I want to stay," she says, calmly. "I have a platinum credit card and can pay whatever rate you require." Brad's laugh is barely audible, but Maya catches it. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some identification and a credit card before we can proceed." His request is reasonable, but his tone suggests he expects both to be rejected by whatever verification system he plans to use. Maya slides her driver's license and credit card across the marble counter. Brad examines both with exaggerated care, holding them up to the light as if checking for forgeries. He types her information into the computer with deliberate slowness, each keystroke an exercise in theatrical skepticism. "I'm going to need to verify this with my manager," he announces after several minutes. "These black cards, well, we see a lot of replicas." He picks up the phone and speaks in a voice loud enough for other guests to hear. "There's a guest here claiming to have a black card. Could you verify the authenticity?" The humiliation is intentional, designed to make Maya uncomfortable enough to leave. Other guests have begun to notice the unusual scrutiny, their conversations dropping to whispers as they observe the scene. A family nearby pulls their children closer, as if Maya's presence represents some kind of threat to their peaceful vacation. "Ma'am," Brad says after hanging up the phone, "I'm going to be honest with you. This is a very exclusive resort. Our guests expect a certain atmosphere. Are you absolutely certain you wouldn't be more comfortable somewhere else?" The question isn't about comfort. It's about belonging. It's the same question her family faced 20 years ago, wrapped in slightly more sophisticated language, but carrying the same devastating message. You don't belong here, and we don't want you here. Maya feels the eyes of other guests upon her, feels the weight of their assumptions, their judgments, their comfortable certainty that the staff member must be right to treat her this way. She thinks of her parents, of the quiet dignity with which they accepted their rejection, of the lesson they taught her about choosing battles wisely. But this isn't just about her anymore. This is about every person who's ever been made to feel unwelcome because of how they look. Every family who's been turned away from places they've dreamed of visiting. Every child who's learned that their worth is measured by other people's prejudices. "I'm certain," Maya says quietly, but her voice carries a new edge. "And I think you should be very careful about what you say next." Brad's expression shifts to something closer to irritation. He's clearly not accustomed to guests who don't back down, who don't take the hint and disappear quietly. "Look, lady, I'm trying to be nice here. People like you just don't belong at Ocean Pearl Resort. This is a place for successful, respectable people. Maybe you should try somewhere more appropriate for your type." The words hit the lobby like a physical blow. Conversations stop mid-sentence. The classical music seems to pause. Even the waterfall sounds muted against the sudden silence. Maya feels the weight of every eye in the room, feels the collective intake of breath from witnesses who can't believe what they've just heard. But she also feels something else. The quiet click of a decision being made. The sound of a line being crossed. The moment when patience transforms into action. Maya reaches slowly into her backpack, retrieving her phone with movements that are calm, controlled, and utterly terrifying to anyone who knows how to read the signs. "You know what?" she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think it's time I made a phone call." The silence that follows is the kind that precedes earthquakes, the moment when the world holds its breath before everything changes forever. Maya's fingers move across her phone screen with practiced precision, finding the contact she needs in her favorites list. The lobby remains frozen in anticipation, guests and staff alike sensing that something significant is about to unfold. Brad maintains his defiant posture, clearly believing he's handled an unwelcome situation appropriately, though a flicker of uncertainty crosses his face as he watches Maya's calm determination. "David," Maya says into the phone, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "I need you in the lobby. Now." The call lasts less than 10 seconds, but those 10 seconds feel like an eternity to everyone within earshot. Brad's confidence wavers slightly. "Who exactly are you calling?" he asks, though his tone suggests he still believes he holds the upper hand. "Security?" because I can assure you we have procedures for handling situations like this. Maya slides her phone back into her pocket and fixes Brad with a steady gaze. You should prepare yourself for what's about to happen, she says, quietly. Because in about 30 seconds, your entire world is going to change. The elevator chimes echoed through the lobby like a funeral bell. David Morrison, the resort's general manager, emerges at a near run, his usually immaculate appearance slightly disheveled, his face flushed with the kind of panic that comes from realizing you've made a catastrophic mistake. He's been expecting this call for days, dreading it, hoping against hope that the new owner's inspection would go smoothly. David's eyes sweep the lobby until they land on Maya, and his face goes ashen. "Miss Chen," he breathes, his voice barely audible. I didn't know you had arrived. I'm so sorry, we weren't expecting." "Ms. Chen?" Brad interrupts, his voice cracking slightly. "Who is Ms. Chen?" David turns to Brad with an expression of pure horror. "This is Maya Chen," he says, each word falling like a stone into still water. "She's the CEO of Chen Hospitality Group. She's the new owner of Ocean Pearl Resort." The lobby erupts in a symphony of gasps, whispers, and the distinctive sound of cell phones being activated as guests begin recording what they instinctively know will become viral content. Brad's face cycles through a spectrum of emotions: confusion, disbelief, dawning comprehension, and finally, absolute terror. That's impossible," Brad stammers, his professional composure completely shattered. She's wearing jeans. She doesn't look like what?" Maya asks, her voice cutting through his stammering with surgical precision. "Like someone who belongs here? Like someone who deserves basic respect? Like someone who might actually own the place where you work?" The questions hang in the air like accusations, each one finding its mark. Brad's mouth opens and closes soundlessly, his mind struggling to process the complete reversal of everything he thought he understood about the situation. Around them, guests have begun forming a loose circle, their phones capturing every moment of what's already being hashtagged as Ocean Pearl racism on social media. David steps forward, his hands shaking as he attempts damage control. "Ms. Chen, please, I can explain. This is clearly a misunderstanding. Brad was just following..." "Following what?" Maya interrupts, her voice rising for the first time. "Following protocols that allow staff to discriminate against guests based on their appearance? Following procedures that assume people's worth based on their clothing? Following training that teaches employees to treat customers like they're criminals for having the audacity to exist while looking different?" The lobby has become a theater, with Maya as the prosecutor, Brad as the defendant, and dozens of witnesses documenting every word for posterity. The waterfall continues its gentle cascade, but now it sounds like the ticking of a clock, counting down to judgment. "I didn't mean..." Brad begins, but Maya cuts him off with a raised hand. "Oh, but you did mean it," she says, her voice carrying 20 years of accumulated pain and determination. "You meant every word. You meant to humiliate me. You meant to make me feel unwelcome. You meant to suggest that people who look like me don't belong in places like this. The only thing you didn't mean to do was say it to someone who actually owns the place." The crowd around them has grown larger, resort staff emerging from behind counters and around corners to witness the spectacle. Some look horrified, others ashamed, a few defiant. Maya makes mental notes of each reaction, cataloging them for the comprehensive changes she's already planning. Brad makes one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. "Miss Chen, please. I'm sorry. I was just doing my job. I can change. I can be better. Please. Don't fire me. I have a family. I have bills." "You have consequences," Maya replies, her voice final. "And one of those consequences is that you no longer work here. Security will escort you out immediately, and you'll receive your final paycheck by mail." The silence that follows is absolute. Even the background music seems to have stopped, leaving only the sound of breathing and the distant crash of waves against the shore. Brad stands frozen, his career, his confidence, his entire understanding of how the world works lying in ruins around him. But Maya isn't finished. She turns to address the crowd that is gathered, her voice carrying the weight of someone who has just discovered the true extent of the problem she's inherited. "This resort is closed," she announces, her words rippling through the lobby like a shockwave. "Effective immediately, every guest will be relocated to comparable accommodations at our expense. Every employee will report for mandatory retraining, and every policy that allowed this to happen will be completely rewritten." The declaration sends the crowd into a buzz of excited whispers and frantic phone calls. Social media feeds explode with real-time updates as the story spreads beyond the confines of the resort. Maya Chen, the quiet woman in jeans who was told she didn't belong, has just shut down an entire five-star resort because of how she was treated. As security approaches Brad, he looks back at Maya with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. "You can't do this," he whispers. "You can't destroy everything just because your feelings got hurt." Maya meets his gaze with the steady confidence of someone who has just proven that sometimes the person you underestimate is exactly the person with the power to change everything. "Watch me," she says. "The next 48 hours transform Ocean Pearl Resort from a symbol of exclusion into a case study in corporate responsibility." Maya doesn't simply fire Brad and move on. She uses the incident as a catalyst for the complete cultural overhaul she's been planning since the day she first walked into a boardroom and realized that success without compassion is just sophisticated cruelty. Within hours of the lobby confrontation, Maya has assembled every department head, every manager, every employee who has been with the resort for more than 6 months. The conference room that once hosted exclusive wine tastings for VIP guests now serves as a courtroom where decades of discriminatory practices are finally being called to account. "I want to hear from everyone who has witnessed or experienced discrimination at this resort," Maya announces, her voice carrying the authority of someone who has built an empire on the principle that hospitality means welcoming everyone. "And I want to hear from everyone who has been too afraid to speak up, too worried about job security to report what they've seen." The stories that emerge paint a picture of systematic exclusion that goes far beyond Brad's blatant racism. Housekeeping staff describe being instructed to scrutinize certain guests more carefully, to report suspicious behavior that often correlates directly with race or economic status. Restaurant servers admit to being coached on how to subtly discourage undesirable customers from lingering in public areas. Pool attendants confess to enforcing unofficial policies about who gets premium seating and who gets relegated to corners. Maya listens to each story with the patience of someone who understands that healing requires complete honesty about the wounds that need to be addressed. She takes notes, not for retribution, but for reconstruction. Each testimony becomes a blueprint for change. Each confession, a foundation for rebuilding. "Here's what's going to happen," Maya announces after hours of testimonies. "First, we're implementing a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind, not just the obvious cases, but the subtle ones too. The microaggressions, the unconscious biases, the systemic practices that make people feel unwelcome without anyone having to say a word." She outlines a comprehensive retraining program that goes beyond simple diversity workshops. Every employee will undergo intensive cultural sensitivity training, implicit bias recognition, and customer service excellence courses that emphasize respect and dignity for every guest. The training won't be a one-time event, but an ongoing commitment, with regular assessments and refresher courses. Second, Maya continues, we're establishing an anonymous reporting system that allows both guests and employees to report discrimination without fear of retaliation. Every report will be investigated by an independent third party, and the results will be made public in our quarterly transparency reports. The room buzzes with whispered conversations as employees process the magnitude of change Maya is proposing. Some look excited, others nervous, a few openly skeptical. Maya addresses each reaction with the calm confidence of someone who has navigated far more challenging transformations. Third, we're diversifying our hiring practices immediately. I want to see our staff reflect the diversity of our guest population. We're partnering with community organizations, minority business enterprises, and educational institutions to ensure that opportunity isn't limited by network or privilege. Maya's vision extends beyond internal policies to external partnerships. She announces a $10 million, 0 cents commitment to establish a hospitality scholarship fund for underrepresented students, creating pathways into the industry for people who might otherwise never have the opportunity to work in luxury hospitality. But most importantly, Maya says, her voice softening slightly, we're going to remember that every person who walks through our doors is someone's child, someone's parent, someone's dream of a perfect vacation. We're going to treat them the way we'd want our own families to be treated, regardless of what they look like or where they come from. The transformation isn't just philosophical, it's practical and immediate. Maya personally reviews every job description, every training manual, every policy document that governs guest interactions. She eliminates language that creates barriers, restructures procedures that enable discrimination, and implements systems that reward inclusion rather than exclusion. The resort's marketing materials undergo a complete overhaul, featuring diverse families, couples, and individuals enjoying the amenities that were once tacitly reserved for certain demographics. The imagery isn't just superficial diversity. It's a promise that everyone in the photos will actually be welcomed and valued if they choose to visit. Maya also establishes a community advisory board that includes representatives from local civil rights organizations, cultural groups, and advocacy organizations. Their role isn't ceremonial. They have real power to review policies, investigate complaints, and recommend changes that will keep the resort accountable to its new principles. The ripple effects extend far beyond Ocean Pearl Resort. Maya's actions inspire other hospitality companies to examine their own practices, sparking an industry-wide conversation about inclusion that had been long overdue. Welcome Everyone becomes more than a hashtag. It becomes a movement that challenges the entire sector to live up to its promises of universal hospitality. Within weeks, the resort reopens with a completely transformed culture. The same marble lobby that once witnessed Maya's humiliation now hosts a celebration of inclusion, where families of all backgrounds feel genuinely welcome to create their own memories. The waterfall still cascades. The chandeliers still sparkle. But now they illuminate a space where dignity and respect are the true luxury amenities. Maya stands in the lobby on reopening day, watching as the first guests are greeted with the kind of warmth and enthusiasm that every person deserves. Among them is a young Africa family with 2 children, and Maya watches as they're welcomed with genuine smiles and helpful assistance. The parents look around with the same wonder she remembers from her own childhood, but this time, there's no security guard approaching to suggest they might be more comfortable elsewhere. The transformation is complete, but Maya knows it's also just the beginning. Cultural change isn't a destination. It's a journey that requires constant vigilance, continuous commitment, and the courage to keep pushing forward, even when progress feels slow. As she watches the diverse crowd of guests enjoying the resort that once rejected her, Maya realizes that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's creating a world where the prejudices that wounded you can no longer wound others. 3 months after the incident that changed everything, Maya sits in the penthouse suite of Ocean Pearl Resort, the same suite that was once deemed too exclusive for someone who didn't belong here. The irony isn't lost on her. She's now occupying the most prestigious accommodation in a resort she owns, drinking tea from fine china in a room that overlooks the very beach where she was once told to leave. The view from her window tells the story of transformation better than any corporate report could. The beach below is populated with families of every conceivable background, their laughter mixing with the sound of waves in a symphony of inclusion. Children of all races play together in the sand while their parents relax in beach chairs, none of them worried about whether they belong or whether their presence might be deemed unsuitable by staff members who've been trained to judge rather than welcome. Maya's phone buzzes with a text from her assistant. The Today Show wants to interview you about the Ocean Pearl transformation. Are you available next week? She smiles and types back, only if they're willing to film here so people can see the changes for themselves. The transformation of Ocean Pearl Resort has become more than a business story. It's become a symbol of what's possible when power is wielded with purpose, when success is measured not just in profits, but in the dignity with which people are treated. The resort's occupancy rates have actually increased since the incident, as travelers specifically seek out businesses that stand for something more than just luxury. Maya opens her laptop and begins typing her weekly reflection, a practice she's maintained since taking over the resort. "Dear team," she writes, "this week I received a letter from a mother whose daughter felt beautiful and welcome at our resort for the first time in her life. The daughter has vitiligo, a skin condition that makes her look different, and she's been stared at and whispered about at other hotels, but here she felt invisible in the best way possible, not because she was ignored, but because she was simply accepted as one of our valued guests." The letter continues with stories of other guests who found Ocean Pearl to be a refuge from a world that too often judges first and welcomes later. An elderly couple celebrating their 50th anniversary once turned away from a competitor's restaurant because they were dressed too casually. A family with a special needs child who was accommodated with patience and creativity rather than tolerance and inconvenience. A group of friends from different ethnic backgrounds who were able to vacation together without feeling like they were being scrutinized or categorized. Maya pauses in her writing to look at the framed photograph on her desk, a picture of her 15-year-old self with her parents on the day they were asked to leave this very resort. Her father's hand rests protectively on her shoulder. Her mother's smile is strained but dignified, and her own face shows the confusion and hurt that comes from being rejected for reasons beyond your control. Next to that photograph is a newer one, taken just last week. Maya standing with the resort's entire staff, a group that now reflects the diversity of the guests they serve. The smiles in this photo are genuine, the pride evident, the sense of purpose palpable. These employees aren't just working at a resort, they're participating in a movement that values human dignity above all else. The phone rings, interrupting her reflection. It's David, the general manager who's worked tirelessly to implement the changes Maya demanded. "Miss Chan," he says, his voice carrying the satisfaction of someone who's witnessed genuine transformation, "I wanted to let you know that we just received our highest guest satisfaction scores in the resort's history. But more importantly, we've received over 200 applications for our new diversity scholarship program." Maya closes her laptop and walks to the window, looking out at the scene that represents everything she's worked to create. The beach is busy with families creating memories, couples celebrating milestones, individuals finding peace in a place that promises to treat them with respect and dignity. The staff members visible from her window move with purpose and pride, their interactions with guests characterized by genuine warmth rather than calculated service. "You know what the most amazing part is?" Maya says to David, though she's really talking to herself. "It wasn't about the money or the power or even the justice. It was about proving that the world can be different, that businesses can be profitable and principled, that luxury doesn't have to come at the cost of humanity." She thinks about Brad, the former employee whose discrimination set everything in motion. She's heard that he's struggled to find work in the hospitality industry, that his actions have followed him like a shadow. Part of her feels sorry for him, understanding that prejudice is often learned behavior that can theoretically be unlearned. But she also knows that consequences are the only way some people learn that their actions have impacts beyond their immediate circle. "I've been thinking about expanding the program," Maya continues, "not just here, but across all our properties. Imagine if every hotel, every restaurant, every business that serves the public committed to treating people with dignity, regardless of their appearance or background. Imagine if children grew up expecting to be welcomed everywhere they go, rather than learning to expect rejection. The sun is setting over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that reflect off the water like a promise of new beginnings. Maya watches as families begin packing up their beach gear, their children reluctantly leaving the sandcastle kingdoms they've built throughout the day. Tomorrow will bring new guests, new opportunities to demonstrate that hospitality at its best is about creating space for everyone to belong. As she prepares to end her call with David, Maya's voice takes on the tone of someone who has found her life's purpose. Every time someone chooses to treat another person with respect, every time someone speaks up against discrimination, every time someone extends welcome instead of judgment, they're participating in the most important work any of us can do. We're not just running a resort. We're modeling what the world could be if we all chose kindness over prejudice. Nell turned to Andrew. The phone call ends, but Maya remains at the window, watching the last families gather their belongings and head back to their rooms. She thinks about the young girl with vitiligo who felt beautiful here, about the elderly couple who were welcomed in their casual clothes, about the families who didn't have to worry about whether their children would be accepted. Maya reaches for her laptop one more time, opening a new document. "Dear Brad," she begins typing, then stops. Some conversations are better left unwritten, some bridges better left unbuilt. Instead, she opens a new blog post for the resort's website. A message from the CEO, she writes. "Every person who enters Ocean Pearl Resort carries with them a story, a dream, a hope for respite from a world that too often judges before it welcomes. Our job isn't to evaluate whether people deserve our hospitality, it's to ensure that they receive it. Because in the end, the measure of our success isn't in the thread count of our sheets or the marble in our lobby. It's in the memories we help create, the dignity we help preserve, and the welcome we extend to every human being who trusts us with their precious time." The post goes live as the last light fades from the sky, carrying with it a message that will reach far beyond the resort's guests. Maya closes her laptop and prepares for bed, knowing that tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities to demonstrate that change is possible when someone cares enough to demand it. Outside her window, the ocean continues its eternal rhythm, washing the shore clean with each wave, preparing the beach for tomorrow's visitors, who will arrive expecting to be welcomed exactly as they are. And they will be, because sometimes the most powerful force for change is simply refusing to accept that discrimination is inevitable, that prejudice is permanent, or that the way things have always been is the way they must always be. The girl who was once told she didn't belong has created a place where everyone does, and in doing so, she's proven that the most lasting victories aren't won through revenge, but through the radical act of building something better than what came before.